What are the top biggest cons to moving to Idaho in the winter? Let's find out. Before we get started, my name is Isaac Crace. I live, work, and play here in Idaho and document my experiences along the way to help you enjoy all that Idaho has to offer. So if you or anyone you know is thinking about making the move to the Gem State, let's connect and make that dream come true. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode because I've got a great one for you, and I need to apologize ahead of time. I am looking a little rough around the edges, a little scruffy. It is hunting season here in Idaho, and all you fellow hunters understand that I need all of the warmth right now that I can get and mojo, all that stuff. So if you're a fellow hunter, you understand what I'm going through. In fact, by the time you're seeing this video, I will be elk hunting. But without further ado, let's get started with the biggest cons of moving to Idaho in the winter. The first biggest and broadest con is going to be the weather and everything that it brings with it. Snow, ice, storms can affect every single aspect of buying a home. From traveling to and from Idaho, maybe some highway passes are closed or blocked because of deep snow, rough weather conditions, you can't see, get through, anything like that. Or simply even when you're out looking at buying homes, there could be ice on the road, snow on the road, slush on the road, or a combination of any of the sort that maybe your vehicle doesn't handle too well in, or maybe you aren't really familiar driving in. Simply just from looking at the road conditions and the weather that come with it looking for the home, and then adding on top once you've actually gotten your home. For starters, when you're moving furniture from your trailer or your pod, whatever you decide to go with, from the trailer into your house, nobody even likes to do that in the nice winter, for starters. And then add in some snow, ice, maybe it's freezing cold, and then all of that stuff, so you're looking like Santa Claus. You got the rosy nose, cheeks, your toes are cold and wet, your fingers are freezing. It makes it for not quite a fun process. The next thing when you're looking to purchase your home during the winter is going to be the landscaping. Normally during the summer when you're looking at a home, you're looking at the landscaping. Is the grass green in healthy condition? What about all those trees that are around the property? That giant tree, the shade is going to come right where you want it at the certain time of day. And you know how healthy it is by how many leaves are on it. But in the winter, it's kind of hard to tell how healthy the grass is or how healthy the trees are and just the landscaping in general, because everything looks pretty dead depending on how late into the winter you're getting into the home buying process. Now, hopefully, when spring rolls around, the time that you can figure out how healthy your yard is, you don't figure out that the trees weren't exactly sleeping for winter and they've been asleep for a long time. And then you're having to call an arborist or a tree trimmer to come out and cut down those trees, and you could be looking at thousands of dollars. So that's another thing to keep in mind, and it could be a big expense that you weren't expecting. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking at homes in the winter, that you can't really tell how good the landscaping is for the property. Or even simply your immediate neighbors in the neighborhood when you're looking at a property. During the summer, you can tell if maybe they don't take the best care of their property, and maybe that's something that you don't necessarily want to put yourself next to. But in the winter, everybody's yards look kind of just blah, so you might not even realize that getting into it, that's how their yard looks the whole entire year. And then you get stuck with this eyesore in the spring, in the summer, and now you're stuck with it. Now, if you're looking on the new construction side of things for landscaping, that could be another holdup, because with the rough conditions, the cold conditions, it's not exactly going to be the best for the grass to be either seeded, installed, whether you want shrubs, sprinklers, all that kind of stuff, because if the ground's frozen, you're kind of just wasting your time. You're going to have to tear out everything you put in and put new stuff in the spring or the summer, because it's probably not going to survive through the winter. So if you're looking at new construction side of things, landscaping wise, you may be with just dirt for the entire winter if they haven't already got it in, or we need to get lucky and get a warm spell for a short amount of time so that the builder or landscaper can install all that stuff. It'd be warm enough for it to survive that transplant. The next thing is going to be inspections. So if and when you do get your offer accepted on a property, the first course of action, the absolute next thing you do is have inspections done. Now, because of the weather, it could cramp things a little bit. You may not be able to test the AC unit. You may not be able to test the sprinklers to see if they're in good working condition. And if there's snow or ice or anything on the roof that's just built up water-wise, you may not be able to get a good look at the roof to see the health of the roof. And that can be cause for concern. Obviously, you can get a home warranty, but a home warranty isn't going to cover if maybe you didn't realize that the roof was that old and in that bad of condition, because simply you couldn't see it because there was snow on it. So that's something to keep in mind with that. And if repairs do need to be made, that can also be an issue depending on the weather. Say there's something wrong with the siding and it needs to be repainted or something like that. If it's too cold, you're not going to be able to paint the siding because the paint's simply not going to adhere. So that'd be something that would definitely interrupt the process as well. With the season, new home production is going to slow down quite a bit. So if you're in the avenue of maybe looking for a new construction, you don't want to be buying a resale home, new construction slows down as it is. Now throw in the current market with interest rates going up, builders are already scaling back a little bit. So the inventory isn't going to be super high this winter if you're looking for new construction. So that's something to keep in mind. And if you're going to be building with new construction, like a custom home, for instance, that could also take quite a bit of time because in the winter, depending on the temperature, big things like foundation concrete work, you can't lay that when it's super cold outside because it won't set right. And then you're going to end up with a crumbling home because your foundation sucks because it was poured too cold. That can affect everything. And if it's just a blizzard, complete blizzard, they're not going to be able to build the home either. So that's another thing to keep in mind, that it's going to take, if you're in the new construction side of things, A, there's going to be a lower supply, and B, it's going to take longer to get things done. The next con, and this seems weird to say as a con, is the holidays. Now, winter is the holiday season, and there's tons of songs about being home for the holidays, and the last thing people want to do is be away from home, probably shopping for homes. Now, something to keep in mind, that can slow down things a little bit, especially if you're right in between, like, I don't know, Christmas and New Year's. In that area, that can slow things down because business days aren't going to be as many. So your weeks could be shortened up, and that could extend things quite a bit of time. Another thing to keep in mind, some sellers just don't even want to deal with selling a home during the holidays. So if they have a house on the market and it's not selling, they might just pull it off for the holidays. So it's going to bring down the inventory quite a bit more as well. So A, you already don't want to be out looking for a home during the holidays, and B, it could be slowing things down a bit because, you don't get those business days. Christmas Day isn't going to be a business day. New Year's isn't going to be a business day. So all that stuff can slow down, and then people are pulling their homes off the market simply because they don't really want to sell homes during the holidays and deal with the headache that comes with it. The next thing is the daylight. One of the many reasons that a lot of people like Idaho, and me, myself, love Idaho, during the summer, the sun comes up at like 6 a.m., and it's light all the way until 10 p.m. So you have all day to do stuff. Now, with that, in the winter, Idaho doesn't have very much sunlight. The sun comes up maybe around like 8 o'clock, and then it goes down and it's pitch black around 5 o'clock. Like when I was in school and doing sports and all that stuff, I would go to school before the sun came up. And once I came out, the sun was already down. So there would be like weeks at a time where I didn't see the sun. Now, factor that into your work schedule. If you're looking to buy a home and you're working full time, maybe you can't get out during the week to look at homes, then that would leave you with only the weekend. Now, if you're looking after work because you can't get off on the weekend because of kids, such and such, so on, it can be hard to look at homes during the daytime, and it can be hard to see things. Like maybe there would be something that would jump out at you that you would notice in the daylight, although maybe in the evening and when it's dark, you just didn't notice it because it was too dark to notice. So that's something to keep in mind as well. The final and definitely not least con is going to be the school year. Now, getting out and buying a house and moving in the middle of the winter, it is the middle of school year, especially in Idaho. I'm not sure about other states, but I'm sure it is as well. And when you're kind of uprooting your kids, once you get into that winter break area, your kids have got settled down in, they've got their friends figured out, and you're picking them up and moving them to a completely different area. If you're not switching schools, that's great, but most of the time you are going to be switching schools, so that can be a little tough on the kids. So that is another thing to keep in mind as well, which is why a lot of people wait until the springtime and the summertime to move because they're not changing their kids in the middle of the school year. What are some more cons that you could think of about moving to Idaho during the winter? I know I could have elaborated probably a lot more. I mean, there's millions and millions and millions of reasons not to move to Idaho in the winter, just dealing with the weather and everything. Now, with all the pros, there has to be cons. So keep your eyes open for this video right here. It's not going to be out this week. It'll be out next week. It is going to be the pros of moving to Idaho in the winter. And there are a lot of new pros, as well as pros that are similar that play off these cons that we talked about. Until next week, I'm Isaac Crace with Top Idaho Real Estate, your third generation Idaho Realtor.